Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you for watching this video. I'm outside in my car because it's a nice day and I thought that the change of scenery would be good for me and for you. Today I want to talk about paralysis by analysis and how I began to overcome that by using the 3-2-1 rule. When I was at my worst, suffering from anxiety and depression, I would describe my number one symptom as overthinking situations. I was constantly stuck in a loop of what if. And unfortunately, almost all of the what ifs that came up were negative. And that was because I really didn't have that much success or positive experience going up to that point. To understand this overthinking or this paralysis by analysis, we need to understand a little bit about how the brain works, what its function is, and specifically what's going on in the frontal lobe of the brain. The frontal lobe is the newest part of the brain. It's the most developed in humans, and it's what allows us to really experience this consciousness that we are a part of. It's got a lot of tasks. It mediates spatial awareness. It is involved in storing and recalling memories. There's lots of specialized areas like Broca's area, which is directly involved in creating and comprehension of speech. Essentially, the job of the frontal lobe is to project us into the future. It gives us the ability to come up with different options and alternatives for any given situation, and its job is to find and implement the most successful one. Now, success is a relative term, and at the end of the day, staying alive is pretty successful. And so for me, all of these negative options that I was provided, my brain was like, look, survival is the best option, and since there's no action other than fleeing that leads to that, let's get the hell out of here. That led me to turn away from a lot of things, even mundane things like cleaning my apartment, going to the grocery store, even like making my bed and taking a shower was terrifying. And that's not even to mention things like interpersonal interaction. So as amazing as the brain is, clearly it's limited by what kind of information and what kind of data it has to work with. Now, if I'm constantly stuck in this pattern, this negative pattern, how am I going to break it? Well, that's where the 3-2-1 rule comes in. Now, the number one stipulation of the 3-2-1 rule is that if it's used, there's got to be commitment. Otherwise, it simply becomes a pattern of counting down from 3-2-1 all the time. So the easiest example I can give you is how I really started using this was to take cold showers. Now, anybody who has done this can tell you that it is terrifying and it is uncomfortable to do this. And I didn't start by, I'll just say I didn't start where I ended up, which is I wash my whole body. I have a minimum amount of time that I am in this cold water, and I started by counting down 3-2-1 and just stepping into the water. Woo! I did that, then I turned the tap to warm. Man, was that crazy. After a time, I got really good at just stepping into the water, and I said, I gotta take at least 5 controlled breaths doing this. It still wasn't easy. I literally had dread about this because it was a negative experience. However, by doing it, I gave my brain more data that I was still alive at the end of this negative experience. So I worked my way up to 5 breaths, to 10 breaths, to 20 breaths, made sure that each part of my body got cold water for a certain amount of time. And finally, after about 1.5 years of doing this, I've worked it up to, like I said, kind of a minimum amount of time, and I really just make sure that I get my whole body covered in cold water in the shower. Now that I have given myself more information about how to be successful in stressful situations, my brain is able to extrapolate that data out, and it informs me, number one, that going through a negative experience doesn't equate to being dead. And so I'm able to embrace other initially negative experiences and give myself data with which to draw more successful conclusions into the future. In other words, I just gave myself the ability to be uncomfortable. And by being uncomfortable, my brain was able to formulate new hypotheses about how strong I am and about what the actual consequences of experiencing negative is mostly positive. Now that goes into other scenarios in my life. If I'm dreading cleaning my apartment, scrubbing my toilet, washing dishes, going to the grocery store, or going out somewhere in public, interacting with people, I have the ability now to accept that it will be potentially a negative experience, and I'm able to get more data on how to make it more positive in the future. There's that meme of like winning old arguments in the shower, and that's the 3-2-1 rule in action. The reason that comes into people's brains is because there is new information, new data that the brain is able to apply to an old scenario. Now, usually those arguments involve some witty rebuttal or some objection to an argument, or something that you would have said where, I'd really stand up for myself if I could go back. And that's because the brain gained new information and it was able to apply it to these old situations. That's the principle behind inner child work, which a lot of therapists use to help people cope with negative situations that they went through in their childhood or in the past. The therapist gives this person new information, new understanding, and then encourages them to go back and engage that circumstance with that new information. It is almost a form of time travel. The brain is finally able to resolve that issue, come to a satisfactory conclusion, understand that it can embrace the negative and change it into a positive, and finally let go of any of the weight or burden, we can call it, of holding on to that traumatic or troubling experience. So by constantly practicing this, by making the commitment that this has to lead to action, will incrementally lead to success after success after success. Action leads to more action, and building positive momentum is something that we want. So that's my download for today. Again, thank you very much for watching this video. Like, comment, share, subscribe. See you soon.